In ancient Persia, in the first millennium before Christ, desert builders were solving the same summer plague that still owns your backyard. They did not have foggers. They did not have blue lights. They had something better. I want you to see it. An underground tunnel runs for miles. The slope is gentle. The water stays shaded. The air stays cooler. The breeding pools stay controlled. Nothing whines above the surface because nothing is invited to breed there in the first place. That was more than 2,700 years ago. The physics has not changed. Dark water still attracts egg-laying females. Still air still protects larvae. Sun, movement, and targeted biology still break the cycle. The only thing that changed is that someone decided you should keep paying for the wrong end of the problem. The Amish who settled Lancaster County in the early 1700s carried the older habit with them. It came from the Palatinate, Alsace, and Canton Burn. They never chased mosquitoes across a field. They controlled water, shade, and airflow at the source. They still do. And what they built still works today, with no chemical cloud drifting across a single hive. Here is the bold promise. You can cut the biting pressure around your home without poisoning your yard, without coating your flowers, and without risking your dog. One 5-gallon setup can turn a breeding cycle against itself for less than $38. And yes, this works even if your house was built 50 years ago, even if you live in a city, even if you have never done this before. Stay with me, because what I found in Lancaster County uses the same physics. The Persians used it to move water through desert heat 2,700 years ago. The science is brutally simple. The female mosquito is not hunting your whole property equally. She is hunting water, carbon dioxide, shade, organic scent, and a place where larvae can sit still long enough to grow. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says mosquitoes pass through egg, larva, pupa, and adult stages. Penn State Extension says some species complete that cycle in only 7 to 10 days. That is the window. Miss it, and you fight wings. Catch it, and you fight wrigglers. That is why the United States Environmental Protection Agency says egg and larva interventions are generally the most effective, least costly control. The agency also states that BTI, Bacillus thuringiensis subspecies israelensis, specifically affects mosquito larvae and shows minimal toxicity to honeybees. That matters. A bee foraging over clover is not a mosquito larva breathing at the waterline. Different body, different exposure, different outcome. Think of it like your car radiator. You do not wait until the engine block glows red, then throw ice at the hood. You control heat where the system cycles it. Mosquito control works the same way. You target the stage that is concentrated, immobile, and accessible. In practical terms, 1 unit of larval intervention gives you dozens to hundreds of prevented adult bites. That is 1 unit of effort. A conventional fogging pass only hits exposed adults for a short window. That is the real coefficient of performance here. You treat the cradle, not the cloud. That gap represents a massive market in recurring sprays, yard treatments, truck fogging, and seasonal service contracts every year. And that is why you have never heard of this. The first time I stood behind a barn outside Strasbourg, the silence was what caught me. No backpack mister, no electric zapper snapping all evening. I heard swallows, tack chains, wagon wheels, and one box fan turning low in the doorway. It was late July. The air sat at 84 degrees. The horse lot smelled sweet and wet. I expected a whining cloud. It was not there. I asked Eli why. He looked at a black bucket tucked under elderberry shade and told me, "You do not chase mosquitoes over 3 acres. You stop them where they begin." Then he laughed and pointed to the gutters, the troughs, and the rain barrel screens before he pointed to his skin, dry forearms, no bites, no drama. He told me his father did it, and his father before him. 4 generations. Same habit. Watch the water. Screen what you keep. Seed one place you control. Leave the rest dry and moving. That knowledge came with families from the Palatinate and Canton-Berne, then held in Pennsylvania because it worked. Penn State Extension still teaches the same life stage logic today. The USDA still tells homeowners to treat standing water that cannot be dumped. Go back farther, and the pattern gets uncomfortable. In ancient Egypt, Herodotus described marsh people fishing with nets by day and sleeping under the same nets by night. The CDC notes that account because the logic never changed. Break access, break bites. In Rome, whole campaigns were shaped by marsh ground and drainage because still water meant death. Later reclamation projects proved the same point again with brutal clarity. In ancient Persia, Qanat builders pulled water through almost horizontal underground tunnels by gravity, according to UNESCO. The shafts were spaced for maintenance, the slope was gentle, and the water stayed below the blazing surface. In Korea, the old Ondol habit taught another version of the same lesson. Control the environment first. Do not argue with the season. Redirect it. Every civilization that mastered heat, marsh, or summer disease arrived at the same answer independently. The Amish never forgot. They carried it from the Palatinate and Canton-Berne to Pennsylvania more than 280 years ago. They kept building it because it worked, and because they never needed anyone's permission to do what made sense. Now for the part that should make you angry. In 1945, when the War Production Board released DDT for civilian use, the future of mosquito control changed overnight. That decision protected a chemical model built on repeat applications, not permanent household habits. Source reduction threatened recurring sales. Screening, drainage, and targeted larval control threatened a market that only grows when you stay dependent. The mechanism was not mysterious. It was administrative. In 1947, Congress expanded the new Communicable Disease Center's anti-mosquito mandate and allocated $4.6 million to eradicate malaria in 5 years. That same year, the American Mosquito Control Association published its special bulletin, The Use of Aircraft in the Control of Mosquitoes. Read the title again. Aircraft, not barrels, not gutters, not household water discipline. Planes. Once the model shifted upward, the language shifted with it. Trade groups, chemical firms, and local abatement programs could justify budgets, fleets, contracts, and emergency authorities around visible action. Spraying feels dramatic. Housekeeping does not. A truck at dusk looks like protection. Cleaning a gutter on Saturday does not. Nobody told you. Not your builder. Not your contractor. Not the man who sold you a seasonal yard plan. Media helped. The post-war chemical miracle was sold everywhere. Government helped. Federal public health agencies normalized broad campaigns around spray technologies. Industry helped most. Chemical manufacturers, nozzle makers, and service companies all benefited from repeat use. Their incentives aligned, their language aligned too. Eradication from above, control by application, relief on schedule. An entire field of household knowledge disappeared from extension habits, building routines, and daily seasonal practice. Not because it failed, because it was not profitable. And the modern continuation is easy to see. In 2022, the National Pest Management Association openly described pesticide preemption as a pillar of industry success. It warned that local restrictions threatened mosquito and tick treatment tools. In 2024, the American Mosquito Control Association publicly supported pesticide preemption again and backed legislation to remove additional permitting burdens. Read that slowly. Uniform access to more applications, fewer local barriers, faster deployment. The motive is money wrapped in emergency language. The numbers do not hide it. IBIS World places the U.S. pest control market at $29.7 billion in 2026. Every backyard alternative that cuts repeat spray demand is a service visit that never gets sold. Now, if you already own a house and you're thinking this only applies to people with land, Stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. You don't need to buy equipment. You need a yard, a drill, a bucket, and 1 weekend. Here is the exact blueprint. Start with a black 5-gallon bucket, not white, not clear. Dark walls matter because egg-laying females prefer shaded, dark containers with organic scent. Drill 2 overflow holes 2 inches below the rim so heavy rain cannot flood the mix into your lawn. Set the bucket 18 to 24 inches back from a fence, hedge, or wall, where it stays shaded after noon. If you place it in direct sun, the water overheats and the attraction drops. Fill it with 3 gallons of water. Add 2 cups of dried grass clippings, 2 cups of leaf litter, and 1 handful of straw or shredded untreated paper. Let that sit for 48 hours. The water should smell swampy, not rotten. That odor matters. The EPA notes that Aedes females prefer water containing organic material. This is the lure. The kill comes next. Drop in 1/4 of a standard BTI dunk or the labeled equivalent in granules. BTI is not optional. Bleach causes the bucket to stop attracting egg-laying females, and broad insecticide residues risk harming the very predators you need. Use a small stick to keep the organic layer partly submerged. Then stretch a square of 1/8 inch galvanized hardware cloth across the top if pets or toddlers might investigate. Secure it with a bungee cord. Now build airflow where you sit. Put a 20-inch box fan on a porch, deck, or patio. Keep it 24 to 36 inches off the ground, aimed across knees and ankles. Mosquitoes are weak flyers. Air movement over 2 to 3 miles per hour disrupts their landing approach and their carbon dioxide tracking. If you want more capture, zip tie fiberglass window screen to the back intake. Adults that approach you get pinned there. No mist, no cloud. Then do the unglamorous part. Dump every saucer, toy, tire, and clogged gutter section within 75 feet. Screen rain barrels with fine mesh. Cover 4-inch corrugated drain pipe ends with stainless insect screen. If you keep bird baths, change them every 3 days. If you keep a pond, circulate it. Standing water you cannot dump gets BTI. Standing water you can dump gets emptied. That knowledge never disappeared. It was written out of the habit. It was waiting. A single setup costs $7 to $14 for the bucket, $9 to $18 for hardware cloth, and $12 to $18 for BTI. Add $22 to $38 for a basic box fan if you need one. Total cost lands between $50 and $88 if you already own a drill. Time cost is 1 Saturday morning, then 10 minutes once a week. Refresh the organic water every 14 days in peak heat. Replace the BTI every 30 days or follow the label. Clean the fan screen every few evenings. On a 95-degree day after rain, this produces a visible drop in biting pressure around the places you actually use. Not fantasy. Not total extinction across the county. Your chair, your porch, your doorway, your dog run. Requires attention once a season in spring and once a week in peak summer. Your conventional spray program costs $79 to $129 per visit. That becomes $316 to $774 over a season and still leaves you chasing the next hatch. A misting system costs $1,800 to $3,400 to install, plus refill and maintenance. It lasts 5 to 8 years before replacement parts start failing. This costs $50 to $88 total. It lasts as long as the bucket, the fan, and your common sense. Your choice. There is one more thing Eli showed me, and it was almost boring. That is why it matters. He walked me to a rain barrel behind the wash line. Then he ran his thumb across a copper screen fixed under the lid. 40 mesh. Tight fit. No sagging corners. Then he tapped the downspout elbow and told me the barrel mattered less than the screen. keep stored water inaccessible, and you remove a nursery without losing the water. Keep one controlled nursery nearby, and you make the females choose your trap instead of the hidden places you forgot. That is not folk magic. It is competition. A female container mosquito does not lay all her eggs in one place. She skips, she samples, she distributes risk. The CDC's 80s guidance shows females lay eggs on inner container walls. The American Mosquito Control Association notes a Culex raft can hold 100 to 300 eggs. That means one overlooked wheelbarrow, one folded tarp, one blocked corrugated pipe can become a multiplication chamber in less than 2 weeks. You are not fighting singles. You are fighting batches. And the larva itself tells you how to beat it. Look closely at a wriggler in still water. It rises to the surface. It hangs there. It has to breathe. That is why oils and films have worked historically. That is why bacterial larvicides work so cleanly. That is why motion, drainage, and exposure work better than backyard theatrics. The weak point is fixed. It never changes. Not in any summer, ever. I also watched Lydia walk the property line with a tin scoop after a storm. No rush, no panic. She dumped a clay saucer and turned over a child's wagon bed. She cleared leaves from a shallow stone lip and tipped water out of a hoofprint depression beside the fence. 4 minutes, maybe 5. That was the whole patrol. When she finished, she said the same sentence I have not stopped thinking about since. Summer punishes carelessness first. That sentence explains more than 1,000 product labels. Mosquitoes are not a random curse. They are an audit. They reveal every low spot, every neglected corner, every place where water sits longer than your attention. Once you understand that, the whole yard changes shape in your mind. You stop seeing grass and patio furniture. You start seeing surface area, shade, and standing water duration, which is exactly what the business model hates. A recurring spray service wants you thinking in events. Big hatch, big response, big truck, big invoice. Real mosquito control asks you to think in systems. Drainage pitch, screen fit, bucket placement, shade timing, organic scent. None of that is cinematic. All of it works. Go back to the paper trail and the pattern sharpens. In 1945, DDT was released for civilian use after wartime success. In 1947, aircraft bulletins appeared. In the decades that followed, broad adulticide programs became the visible face of public mosquito action. They could be measured in acreage, gallons, routes, and contracts. Household habits could not. A code inspector can count installed equipment. He cannot easily count a grandmother's habit of checking barrels after thunder. That is how knowledge gets displaced. First, the institutional language changes, then the budgets follow. Then the builders stop teaching it. Then the stores stop stocking for it. Then the public starts assuming the only serious answer must come in a tank, a hose, a cartridge, or a monthly plan. That knowledge never disappeared. It was filed away. It was waiting. The modern sales language still gives it away. Listen carefully. Barrier treatment, seasonal program, automatic misting, knockdown service, maintenance plan. Every phrase assumes permanence for the seller and dependence for you. None of those phrases begin where the insect begins. They begin where the invoice begins. And this matters even more if you care about pollinators. Fogging and broad pyrethroid yard sprays do not ask what is flying through dusk. Mosquito, hoverfly, firefly, moth, or bee moving through clover, it gets the drift. The whole point of the bucket method is precision. The attractant is water with organic scent. The kill is in the larval stage. The fan affects only the tiny corridor where you sit. One target, one choke point, one controlled zone. If you want to scale it, do it by area. On a city lot under 1/4 acre, start with one bucket near the worst pressure point. Add one fan where people actually sit. On a half acre, use 2 buckets spaced 30 to 45 feet apart on shaded edges, not in the center. On 1 acre, use 3 buckets and still keep every container dry. More buckets are not a substitute for cleanup. They are a lure network. That distinction matters. Placement matters too. Do not hide the bucket beside your back door. You do not want a concentrated egg-laying site 3 feet from bare ankles. Put it 25 to 40 feet away from seating if your lot allows. Keep it downwind of common sitting areas when summer breezes are predictable. Keep it level. A crooked bucket exposes the inner wall unevenly, and oviposition drops. Water chemistry matters more than people think. Use plain water, not chlorinated pool water, not softened brine, not bleach. If your tap water is heavily chlorinated, let it sit 24 hours before mixing the bucket. Add a strip of muslin cotton or rough wood only if you notice females prefer laying above the waterline in your area. Texture gives them an easy landing edge that is useful in very smooth buckets. And do not get sloppy with materials. Schedule 40 PVC pipe used as a hidden reservoir. Sounds clever, but if you cannot inspect it, you cannot manage it. Thin landscape fabric over a barrel lid is not enough. It sags, it gaps, it tears. Type S hydrated lime around wet outbuildings can dry mud and discourage resting insects, but it does not replace water control. Low E radiant foil in a shed roof can cut heat load, but it does not stop breeding. Each material has a job. Give it the right job. If you want one extra layer, add a 3-foot by 5-foot patch of cedar mulch or coarse gravel directly under outdoor seating. That lets splash water drain fast after storms. Mosquitoes rest low. They love damp plant clutter. Open, dry ground changes the microclimate under your chair. Pair that with the fan, and landing rates fall hard in the exact place you care about. There is also a winter lesson here. Do not store the bucket full and forgotten. Empty it. Scrub the ring. Dry it. Stack it upside down or drill a 1/4 inch drain hole at the base if you leave it outdoors. Eggs of some species survive drying. That does not mean they survive your attention. Clean walls matter. That keeps next spring from starting early on you. Every storm now answers to you first. Everything I have covered across this channel is in one place. Root cellar cooling tricks, rain barrel overflow control, smokehouse sanitation basics. Step by step, season by season, room by room, in the order families actually use it. Link is in the description. But stay here, because what Eli built behind that barn is the part nobody is talking about yet. Because the deeper lesson is not the bucket, it is the posture. The Amish did not read this in a textbook. They figured it out the way all real knowledge gets discovered, by paying attention to what the insect was already doing. Dark water, protected edges, quiet corners. Then they turned that pattern against it. That is what you are doing here. You are not buying relief. You are observing a life cycle and interrupting it with almost insulting simplicity. A 5-gallon bucket, a bacterial larvicide, a fan, a screen, a cleaned gutter. That is enough to embarrass a whole industry built on spectacle. And once you see it everywhere. The low spot holding runoff beside the fence, the toy bin lid catching 1/2 inch of rain, the folded tarp, the forgotten wheelbarrow, the clogged elbow in the downspout. Nobody told you to look there. Not your builder, not your contractor, not the man who sold you the cloud. If you believe real knowledge was quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know. You know what to do. Hit subscribe. Not for me, for what comes next. Because this is not a channel. This is a quiet movement of people who have decided they are done being sold what they already own. I want to hear from you. Drop your state and your worst mosquito month in the comments. Tell me whether your problem starts at the porch, the barn, or the gutters. I read every one. Your answers decide what we uncover next. Next week, I am going to show you what a 1946 farm document reveals. One family in rural Tennessee still keeps flies out of summer kitchens with lime wash, copper screen, and moving air. And the paper trail proves officials knew the method decades before the hardware aisle sold you louder fixes. You are not going to want to miss that one.